Hey there, welcome to my first ever Bitwig video. Today I want to go through some basic stuff which I have already learned since I switched to Bitwig yesterday. So today I want to document some basic key learnings which are really important when you are just starting out in Bitwig. This is what Bitwig looks like, and there's a lot of going on already. In the top bar you can find all the important information like the BPM, the time signature and the key, for example. On the right side you have your browser where you can find all the stock effects which are really good. So we can type in EQ, and then you will find the EQ Plus, for example, which I have already set up. And you will see that the EQ Plus is opening up down here. You can also load in effects by clicking on this plus. So you can open up the browser in the center. And what I had to understand is that you have to confirm your effect. So if you're just clicking one time on an effect, it does not select it, it just previews it. So you have to double click. So it confirms the stock effect or the plugin you are loading in, like this EQ, for example. As you can see, I have already set up a different default preset for the EQ Plus. So it's more similar to what I'm used to from the EQ8 from Ableton. So we have the low card, the high card, which are disabled right now, and also the low shelf and the high shelf. And we can just enable or disable them and create more EQ points by just clicking on the EQ. And then we can dial it in. And with the mouse wheel, we can change the Q, which is also really neat to have. What's insanely good for beginners is that you can click any stock device and just press F1. And now we got this explanation manual, which is opening up here and explaining all the important parameters of this EQ Plus in this case. And this works for any stock device, and this is crazy. And the good thing is that it even works when you're playing a sound. So let's just load in a sample. Let's quickly check where our samples are. You can change your locations for the samples by going in the settings, by pressing on File, and then you can change the locations here. And as you can see here, I added all my major locations. Once you did that, these file locations will appear on the right side in the browser. So we can just click on the file browser, and there you can see that my file locations have opened up. We can access my sample packs. Let's just load in a sample from the new Dietic sample pack, which is dropping on Friday. So thanks a lot to Dietic for sending me an early version of this insanely stacked pack. I really like the drum. So let's quickly go in the drum loops and select a drum fill, for example. This one, and now we can just load it in here. And you can see when we play, the EQ is already working. And now we can press F1 and easily access the menu here. And what's insane to me that this isn't just a picture, this is actually the working UI, and you can just hit play and try out different things and see what the explanation is doing right away to what you are actually doing in the EQ. So this is really good when you are just starting out with Bitwig and trying to learn everything. As you may have noticed, I have also increased the preview volume of the samples, so I can just hear the samples like I would place them in my DAW without any volume difference. So that's really nice to have. So you can see all the samples are being played with the default volume, which they would usually have in the DAW. I also set up the default volume of the individual tracks to 0, so it's not at -10, which is the default, so it's just on the regular volume, which I am used to. In the center, you can see your tracks, like an instrument track, where you can load in Serum 2. This is an audio track, for example. Here you can see the scenes, which I haven't fully understood yet, to be honest, but I think the scenes were meant to try out different versions of ideas you have in mind. I will get back to the scenes later when I actually need them, so this is not needed for me right now. We can just close this by pulling this to the left. I think there's also a hot button, but I forgot. When we go on the track 4 again, we can increase the size of this, so we can actually see the left and the right channel of the sample, which I am also used to from Ableton, so it's nice to have this view again and not just the mono view. You can see that the playhead is moving. If you want to disable that, you have to press the arrow on the top right. So next to my camera, I will quickly disable the camera, this orange arrow. And once you press that, the playhead does not move anymore. Now let's say we want to create an automation. Let's quickly load in another plugin like this frequency split, which I really like. You can do some crazy sound design stuff with that. We have to confirm this by double clicking. Now we can automate parameters by clicking A. So the automation menu opens, and then we can tweak any knob we want to tweak, like this one. And now you can see the line appearing here, and we can draw the automation here. In this case, it's just a volume automation. Let's have a listen, and let's also solo the band so you can also hear what the frequency split is doing. It's isolating some frequencies in a cool way, and you can actually move this knob in the center and create some cool spectral texture. So I'm a huge fan of the spectral modules here in Bitwig. This is really inspiring, and I think I will use this a lot for sound designing. And you can automate any parameter. When you want to close the automations, just hit A again. Let's open a new track and talk about the audio file processing. So let's just hit Ctrl T. By default, it's actually the other way around. You can change the keybinds really easily by going into the settings and then hitting the shortcuts. And this is also how I changed some shortcuts for me, which felt a little bit weird because of my workflow from Ableton, which I have been used to for many years. So let's quickly hit Ctrl T, which is my hotkey for opening a new audio track. And let's just load in another sample, like let's say a vocal sample, so I can show you the stretching. These vocal phrases are so good.
Keep on going, no
Let's
stopping.
quickly open this one. We can process the audio file by clicking on the audio file, and now you can see the audio events on the left and also the sample in the sample window down here. And by default, I have set it on the raw mode, so I get the sample into my DAW exactly like it was included in a sample pack. By default, these settings were also different. Once again, I changed it in the settings in the behavior tab, and you can see that the stretch behavior is the original speed, so the raw mode basically. That's really, really important for me to have it like that. And besides that, what's insanely essential for me is having the audio rendering and in general the audio quality within the DAW on 32-bit floating point, so you just can work with the maximum quality. Of course, this will take more storage, but when you work a lot with audio files and do lots of bouncing like I do it, this is really, really essential to get clean results without shaving off the peaks, basically. Let's say when you work with 16-bit. We have this sample loaded in right now, and on the left, we can see the stretching modes. Right now, it's on raw, and there's lots of stretching modes in here. In the Spectra category, you can see the Elastic Pro, which is the same as the Complex Pro from Ableton. So this is really good when you want to change the format, for example. When we now loop the sample with Ctrl L,
Keep on going, no stopping.
and tweak some knobs here in the audio events,
Keep on going, no stopping.
you can see that we have this format knob
Keep on going, no stopping.
and also the resolution. And you can see that the format behaves different depending on the resolution.
Keep on going, no stopping.
When we increase it again,
Keep on going, no stopping. Keep on going, no.
so you can get different tones with that. What I really like are the stretching ones.
Keep on going, no.
So we can stretch the sample,
Keep on going, no.
and when we stretch it extremely far, you can get some really, really cool sound design bits out of this. Let's say you want to automate a parameter within the audio clip, which is what I do a lot for sound designing. You can hit right click on the clock and now select the transpose. And now you can just draw automations within the audio clip, which is really cool. So this is something which I will use a lot for sound designing because you can get crazy results with that. Besides that, there are also plenty of other stretching modes, which I also need to try out to see what they can do, to see their potential, so I can use them for sound designing. Let's jump into a completely new topic, the modulation system. Let's open a new audio track and load in another sample. For this video, we will exclusively use some samples from the Dyadic sample pack. Yeah, this one is sick. Let's load in an effect in the effect section. Let's just go with chroma, for example. Let's go with D# pentatonic minor. When we want to automate any parameter, we can click this little arrow icon with the dot on the left. So hit this. These three pluses open up, which you can fill with all kind of modulators. There's so much stuff in it. I haven't checked out everything yet. You have LFOs, curves, randomization tools. Let's just go with a curve, which is like a customizable LFO basically. And you can just double click this and this menu opens. Then you can open up the matrix again and also draw your own shape. So this is a default shape. And there's also a bunch of presets down here. So all the stock plugins and also the modulators, like this modulator, come with stock presets, which is really, really good when you want to try out some different stuff really quickly. So let's just go with this automation, for example. Press OK. You can also press Enter, I think. When you click the blue icon now and select any parameter here, like the colorization, you are modulating. And now you can see that this curve is modulating the colorization. Once you are finished setting up the modulation, you have to press this icon again so you don't keep on modulating. This is also something what I learned yesterday in the stream. Let's load in an EQ again. And set up a randomization for this EQ point. We just have to click the dot with the arrow again, go on the plus, and then we can type in random. Then we can double click to get into the settings and hit this and then modulate, like let's say the frequency and the volume. Now you can see that it's randomly changing and we can change the rate. So maybe let's go a little bit lower. So we are still modulating. You can also change the Q. And there's a bunch of settings to change the way how the randomizer is behaving. Besides that, you can enable a bipolar behavior by clicking on the plus minus. I really like the way how the randomization and in general the modulators are behaving here. Let's quickly hit this button again so we don't keep on modulating. Now let's open a different effect like a reverb, for example. And this is also pretty cool because now you have tank effects and wet effects. And the way how I understood this is that the wet effects only process the wet signal. So when you have a reverb on, let's say, 31%, you can separately process just the reverbed 31% signal and slap any effects on this by clicking on wet effects. And you can see that this blue square appears. And when you hit on the blue plus, you can load in any plugin again, like a distortion, for example. And this blue bar indicates that this is only being processed for the wet part of the reverb, so these 31%. I haven't fully understood the tank effects yet, so feel free to correct me in the comments if I'm saying anything wrong. But the explanation says that it's a chain for inserting devices plugins within the discrete reflections block. So let's say the reverb is doing its thing. I can load in an effect here, and the effect which is processing the reverb goes straight into the reverb again. So it's feeding the reverb in a feedback chain. Please correct me if this is the right understanding of how the tank effects work, but this is how I think the tank effects are behaving. In general, I really like the hierarchy of how the effects and the modulation is working. So now we could set up a modulator again. Like let's just go with curves again. And with this modulator, we can now modulate the reverb, of course, but also what's included within the reverb effects, like this distortion. So we can modulate the width, for example, but also the drive of the distortion. Of course, this sounds a bit weird now because the effects don't make sense on this sound, but it's just meant to serve as an explanation at this point. Obviously, with this modulator, you cannot modulate anything which is not included within this block. However, when you highlight the EQ and the reverb by pressing Ctrl, you can create a group. And you can see that this blue bar is now including everything which we have set up here. So you can see exactly what's included with the blue bar here. And the green bar now indicates the wet effects. And now within the group, we can do the same again. Click the symbol down here, open the modulators. Let's just go with an LFO. And when you now hit this button again, you can modulate everything within the group. Same goes for the global project modulations. You can do global project modulations, which is really, really crazy to me. You can go on the left, which says project, and set up modulators, which you can use not only on this track, like let's go with this curves, for example. You can use this to modulate everything within this group, but also everything within this group. Let's say when we load in a convolution, just for fun, we could modulate the convolution as well. So that's pretty neat to have it set up like that. And if you want to close that, we can hit this icon again. This system took me some time to understand in the stream yesterday, but now I fully got behind it, which is really, really nice. Let's also quickly talk about the EQ again, because you can see I changed the settings here. I can recommend this to anyone. Change the resolution to huge and the speed to very fast and the tilt to 0 decibels per octave. So you can see exactly how the frequency looks like without any changes in tilt or with any blurry resolution when the resolution is not that high. So it looks really precise here. Another highlight for me are the MIDI effects, which I will talk about in a future video soon, because these are just mind-blowing. I had so much fun playing around with that yesterday in the stream, and I will make a separate video about that. I think I have covered up most of the basic stuff here in Bitwig so far. I'm pretty sure I missed some really, really important basic things. Let me know in the comments if there's something extremely significant for beginners like me or also other people who are just jumping in or getting started with Bitwig. It was so much fun exploring all the stuff here in Bitwig yesterday in the stream. Also, thanks again to everyone helping in the chat yesterday. In some moments, I could not understand anything, but thanks to your help, we got it solved. I think I really got a nice overview of how Bitwig is working. And I also hope that new people who are just starting with Bitwig also learn something from this, because with this video, I was sharing, in my opinion, the most important information so far. And I can't wait to finally start producing a track here in Bitwig. And that's it for today's video. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe, leave a like and comment, which are the best ways to support the channel. See you in the next video. Have a great day and goodbye.